And welcome back to Mob Talk Radio. And one of the things that I said I was going to do last week was I was going to talk about Philadelphia. I'm not going to really talk about the indictment. A lot of people have asked throughout the last few weeks, through emails, what is really sort of the defining difference between Philadelphia and, say, other crime groups. And I never really agree that it's fair to compare and contrast. But one of the things, like I said, I get about Philadelphia is in what revolves around them, and how the Joey Merlino faction, has relatively been able to escape life sentences in comparison to the turbulent times of, say, Testa, Scarfo, Stanfa, and Natali. One thing you can't do is really compare, like I said, the groups against one another. Different people, different ideals. But there is one thing I can that I personally think the Merlino faction has that no other mafia family has. And the only comparisons that I can sort of throw out is the Buffalino crime family. And I say that with trepidation because I'm not comparing Russell Buffalino and Joey Merlino. That's not what I'm doing. What I am comparing, and you can't compare the trash between numbers and rackets, but that what I'm comparing is the men that they put around them to insulate themselves. Russell Buffalino was brought into the mafia by everybody from Montedoro, Sicily. And if you look at the early days of the Buffalino crime family, everyone in that family was from Montedoro. And while that, there is a sort of a clannish feel to all of that, that's very much the way that old school bosses felt about things. For some it worked, and for some it didn't. Now, as far as Joey Merlino goes, and as far as what the FBI calls the mafia, when you grow up together and you knock heads together on the playground, you deal with streets from a very young age. Those are the bonds that you simply cannot fucking break. If you look comparatively at other crime families, oftentimes, they have guys in families in New York have 250 members, huge families. But maybe 10 or 12 have grown up together. But the reality is that they don't have the bond that South Philadelphia gangsters have. You can go back to the days of Angelo Bruno. They didn't have 10 guys who grew up together. That's what Scarfo and that's what Stanfa and that fucking toothless fuck Ralph Natali did not understand. Scarfo thought after he went to prison that he would send Nicky Scarfo Jr. in to attempt to meddle in Philadelphia business. And for his stupidity, he got shot 9 times. He then thought he would go to Vic Amuso, who was going to help. And that response, go ahead, send your fucking Lucchese's here and they're going to go home in fucking body bags. And that's what's been allegedly, according to people, that was said by Joey Merlino in a response to Vic Amuso's logic. I don't know if I believe it, but I also could see where that might be said. Joey Merlino stood against Scarfo. Boom, he wins. He takes down Nicky Jr., he takes down John, and then John Stanfa shows up with his old Sicilian logic, with the Gambinos backing him silently. He thought he could twist and turn American Italians into Italian Americans, and there's a big difference. Stanfa was an old school Sicilian guy, and he thought, at least I think, that he could take Philadelphia and turn them into some sort of Sicilian brigade, and it's not going to work. He didn't understand that Italians raised in America are different. The days of the Black Hand were far extinct. The days of Sicily had been removed generations ago. It doesn't mean that they didn't believe in principles. It's just a different thought process. Stanfa just didn't understand, and he tried to rule with an iron fist, and he thought that he could demand and push and shove when he didn't truly earn the position that was handed to him by the Gambinos. You're not going to get respect from anybody by showing up, acting tough, and pushing people around. So you had a split within the Philadelphia Mafia. Merlino, for all of his moxie, wasn't going to put up with the bullshit. They needed to have a regime change, and that's exactly what he and the rest did. Throughout history, they've tried to infiltrate Merlino, and they thought that they were walking into a situation that was easy. These young punks, they don't know nothing, and they totally underestimated the resolve of a younger generation who was hell-bent on not falling in line just because one ape says so. If you look into the amount of informants that have come out of Philadelphia and you compare that to the Merlino regime, I mean, fuck, Nicky the Crow, Tommy Dell, they turned on Scarfo almost immediately. John Vesey ratted almost immediately. Look at Joey, who has, stepped forward to rat. It's been nobody from the inner circle. It's always some fringe piece of shit who at the end of the day isn't even a player in the grand scheme of things. And the reason is because Joey's wrapped in fucking Kevlar by his own people. Say what you want about Joey Merlino. Say what you want about his life. But the truth is, he is very close in many ways to some of the bosses we saw in the 1960s. People are going to laugh at that, but I'm telling you it's the case. He's had a run of over 20 years, if you believe what the FBI says, and there's no secret to that. People will, pick out, oh, he's this or he's that, but they don't know the guy. And if you judge it on what idiot dumb fuck reporters say, calling him an Instagram Don, you can do that. But I guarantee you the people that say that wouldn't say it to him. Look, a guy has to be able to live. If he likes the good life, so be it. If he likes pretty girls, so fucking be it. If he likes sports, who gives a fuck? If he likes gambling, who cares? How is that a negative? Should people live in a fucking closet and be fed and fucking watered every 6 hours like a goddamn horse? People who use that as a tool to somehow say he's an inferior mob guy is bullshit. He's not. He's one of the smartest, one of the most self-deprecating guys in the world. The point I'm making, and I sort of kind of got off course here, is that his own men love him. There is a love there. Some leaders lead by fear, and they lead by a false sense of respect that is not earned. It's just expected. Joey's loved, and that's exactly what people don't understand. This isn't, oh, he's the fucking boss, so we have to fucking do A, B, and C, and fucking, A, B, C, and fucking D. And for the motherfucker who messaged me the other day saying that Joey and others are bums and rats, and shit, and this idiot lives in South Philadelphia, trust me. I'll put $100,000 down on the table right now and I'll lay a bet you won't say that shit to anybody. Fucking coward. Why say that shit to me? Why bring that to me? Take it to them. Why the fuck would anybody say that to me? Look, I'm entitled to like who I want. I'm entitled not to like who I want. You don't like it? Then take that shit to the Fed tit. Because that's exactly what you fucking sound like. I take a bullet or a pinch from most of those guys and they fucking know it. So save the fucking nonsense. Go get a billboard of yourself in South Philadelphia and beg for the fucking attention that you want from real men. Because that's all you're doing, you fucking crumb. And so the whole basis of this is that you cannot kill what is impenetrable. You cannot deny what is kryptonite. You cannot dent kryptonite. And that's what this is. Just like Machiavelli opined in The Prince. He asks the question, is it better to be loved or feared? And men have always thought and considered that the truest form of a question about being a fucking man. And as I always say, it is better to be a lion than to be a lamb led to the slaughter. Lions fight in packs. They protect the head of the pack. Wolves always align themselves in the truest form. When a wolf goes to take a shit or a piss in the fucking woods, all the other wolves corral themselves around the one that's going to the bathroom because at that very moment, the wolf is at his most vulnerable and they are protecting him. They protect the lone wolf. That's Cosa Nostra. That's Philadelphia. And I can't explain it any better than that. You cannot crack something when the foundation is stronger than steel. And if you want to try to compare that to other crime families, that's what other crime families don't fucking have. And that's just the God's honest truth. And if people don't fucking believe that or want to take my word for it, then, so be it. That's your fucking choice. And that's all I got to say about South Philadelphia. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to wrap the show up with a Q&A. So stay tuned on Mob Talk Radio.